The regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for July 20th, 2020 will please come to order. This evening, once again, we will be operating under some modified procedures, including a remote opportunity for members of the public. Those members of the public will be asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting, with the exception of any public hearing. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record. After completing his or her public comments, members of the public will once again be asked to place their microphones on mute. Thank you for your cooperation. And with that, we will move into the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence in remembrance of the now more than 143,000 Americans who have lost their lives as a result of COVID-19.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, republic, nation, God, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. DeMade?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Hazen?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Mr. Belovich?
Here.
Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Here. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of July 6, 2020. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, then the minutes will stand approved as received from the clerk's office. We have no petitions, communications, remonstrance, and memorials, no report of special committees, and no ordinances on first reading, so we will move into resolutions.
Yes, Mr. President, we have resolution number R 2020-14, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, introducing an ordinance for annexation, adopting a written fiscal plan, and a definite policy for annexation for the property located at 16813 Douglas Road, Mishawaka, Indiana.
Thank you. This is a public hearing on proposed resolution 2020-14. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Mr. Prince, good evening.
Mr. President, members of the council, Ken Prince, city planner. The fiscal plan that has been distributed, the 1.07 acre parcel located on the north side of Douglas Road. This is generally between University Park Apartments and the 7-Eleven. I say generally, the area is 50% contiguous to the city currently. By state law, it has to be 12.5% in order to be. The plan has been reviewed by all applicable departments, and they indicate that it could be served with the existing budget. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I'll just add for a note that the property directly behind this is the US EPA cleanup site that I sent an email late this afternoon regarding our issue with methane that is looking to change the status of that landfill. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Prince? Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed resolution, if you would, please come forward to the podium. Seeing no one, anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed resolution, if you would, please unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. Hearing no one, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution, if you would, please come forward to the podium. We will now move into anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed resolution. If you would, please unmute your microphone and identify yourself. Are there any council members who wish to speak? If not, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. DeMade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The resolution passes 9-0.
Ordinances on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2020-22, An ordinance annexing contiguous territory to the city of Mishawaka, Indiana, and providing zoning classification therefore. This is to annex and zone to C1 General Commercial for future medical office at 16813 Douglas Road. This evening is a vote only.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President, to the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Land Use Planning, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 20-22, report that they have examined said matter and in their opinion should be adopted. This is signed by the entire committee and I move for its acceptance.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're all here. This is the second reading and public hearing on proposed Pursuant to state law, in light of the fact that we had the public hearing at our last regularly scheduled council meeting with regard to this matter, we will move directly into a vote. But before I call for the question, I will ask if there are any council members who wish to speak. If not, then now I call for the question.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Demain?
Yes.
Mr. Bednicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamaletti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0. Proposed ordinance number 2020-23, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka authorizing the investment of public funds pursuant to Indiana Code 5-13-9.5.
Thank
you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. The members of the Common Council of the City of Finance, to whom we referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2, that they have examined said matter and adopted. This is signed by the entire committee, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is the second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2020-23. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, if you would, please come forward to the podium or unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Ms. Miller, you need to unmute your microphone. She's here.
She is on remotely? Okay. Becky, if you're trying to speak to us, we're having trouble hearing you.
She usually will text if she's having a problem, so I'm not sure. I can read her letter that she wrote if you'd like for me to do that.
Looks like Mr. Prince is furiously trying to contact someone.
Doesn't show that she has a microphone.
All right, why don't you go ahead and read the correspondence, Madam Clerk?
Sure. This correspondence is to the honorable members of the Common Council from Rebecca Miller, City Controller, regarding investment of public funds. For the July 6th meeting, I'm requesting first reading on our investment of public funds ordinance. This ordinance has an annual renewal and is necessary to allow me to invest in financial institutions outside of the Mishawaka city limits. I work with Baker Tilly, who requests bids and recommends the most advantageous interest rate and maturity date. Contact me with any questions.
Thank you. With that, I will once again inquire if there is anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance. If you would, please come forward to the podium.
Mr. President, just to fulfill the requirement, Ken Prince, City Planner, speaking on behalf of the administration, I will say that as being a member of the Board of Public Works, we have reviewed and approved this request all that familiar with the details as Controller Miller, but I'm still, if I can answer a question, I'm happy to.
Thank you.
I was trying to get her to call on my cell so I could plug
I
her through.
see. Are there any questions for Mr. Prince, Mr. Compton?
30,000 foot view. Is I'm looking at this, and what I heard in the letter was we'd like the ability to borrow money from financial institutions outside the city of Mishawaka. Is that
No.
what that amounts to?
No, that
No.
is not what it is. It's to invest.
Becky?
Hello.
Hi, you're on speakerphone.
Okay. I could hear everybody, but no one could hear me through my phone.
We apologize for that, but is there anything that you want to add before we ask Mr. Compton to repeat his question?
Nothing more than what Clerk Rock read already.
Okay. Did you have a chance to hear Mr. Compton's question then?
I did not.
Well, Becky, I was just trying to, in my head, figure out what it is we're trying to do here. So if you could just, maybe in a short sentence or two, tell us what we're attempting to do, invest public monies outside of the city of Mishawaka. What do you mean by that?
What we do, this gives us more exposure, more chances to, what we do, we go out to bid for the best rates possible for the city's money. And we're not limited to just financial institutions in the county as it used to be many, many years ago. So this allows the city to get the best value for our money. And Baker Tilly assists us because they are the ones that go to the different financial institutions and request the bids, and then I review them with Baker Tilly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Other questions for the controller? Or Mr. Prince? Let's not let him get off the hook so easily. Unfortunately, it does not appear that there are any other questions. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? If so, please unmute your microphone. Hearing no one, is there anyone physically present who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance? If you would, please come forward to the podium. I will then invite anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance. If you would, please unmute your microphone and state your name and address for the record. Are there any council members who wish to speak? Not, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Demade?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
Yes.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance passes 9-0.
Privilege of the floor. At this time, members of the public are invited to the podium to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor. I will now invite anyone participating remotely as a member of the public who wishes to speak under the privilege of the floor to unmute their microphone and begin by stating their name and address for the record. All right, thank you. We'll move into unfinished business.
Yes, Mr. President, we have the matter of ordinance number 5699. This is the PUD amendment to allow quick service oil changes as a use and reduction of parking spaces, setbacks, and landscaping at 317 West Indian Ridge Boulevard that was vetoed by the mayor.
Mr. Compton.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to, terminology is correct, to override the veto.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to override Mayor Wood's veto of ordinance number 5699. Is there any further discussion or questions from the council? If not, then I call for the question. Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Demade?
No.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Hazen?
No.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Mr. Belovich?
No.
Mr. Compton?
Yes.
Mrs. Volker?
No.
Mr. Hicksonbaugh?
Yes.
The vote is 5-4. It does not pass. You need a 2/3 vote.
Before we move on, I will note for the record that we received late this afternoon an email with some correspondence from the petitioner's legal counsel, and I will ask Madam Clerk to make that part of the record of this ordinance as well. New business. Mr. Prince, is the mayor participating remotely, perhaps?
Look like he is.
I see him on here.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'm here. Do you read me?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're ready for your COVID-19 update if you're ready for us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. Council members, David Wood Mayor, here to report really not much different news than I did at the last council meeting in regards to COVID. We are seeing an uptick in the number of cases in the county, but we are not necessarily seeing that play through to the hospital. We're certainly seeing our run volume increase, although we can't necessarily track that to one thing or another, as we don't get reported back on what was what. So we're well equipped. We're ready to handle, as it stands now, the circumstances, and that's pretty much it for now.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mayor Wood? Mr. Emmons?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, with the uptick of the coronavirus in the county, is there any change in your philosophy of making it mandatory that anybody that comes into City Hall wear a mask for the protection, not only of themselves, but also basically for anybody within the building?
Well, as it stands, we are following the recommendations of the CDC, the state health officer, as well as our local health department, and we are compliant with that. We have not seen any cases that are, any issues at City Hall that would require us to go beyond those recommendations at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Mr. Compton?
Mayor Wood, have there been any other city employees diagnosed since the ones we discussed earlier?
We have had one utility employee who has tested positive, as well as members of the family. That person is recovering very well and doing well.
Thank you. I might be I might have misunderstood. We get a lot of information and I read a lot of things, but isn't the St. Joseph County Health Officer recommending face masks for all businesses? Am I wrong in that?
Their order is, for, grocery stores, things of that nature, businesses. We're not necessarily a business. We are a government agency. So, and they are reviewing some changes to that and are in the process of running that through the county council as well as the county commissioners. So that, as I understand, I'm not fully up to speed on that, but that would include some changes.
Okay. I know there was discussion about a county ordinance, if you will, maybe resolution that would, I don't think it could be resolution, it'd almost have to be ordinance, that would put fines on businesses for not mandating their employees. Do you think that would cover the city of Mishawaka as well?
Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to see or review much of what has been proposed, so it'd be way too premature for me to comment.
Okay. All right. I understand that. I'd want to see it too before I really made those kinds of statements. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hazen.
I read the ordinance that they're going to propose, and it does not include government agencies or buildings at this point.
So businesses, yes, but a government agency, which has a lot of people in and out, no. It's interesting. That's interesting. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Hazen. Other questions or comments for the mayor? Mr. Emmons.
Just a clarification, listening to the governor, he's always indicated that people should wear masks, whether they're entering or in a business or wherever, for protection of not only themselves, but also the people within that facility. And so that's what I'm kind of confused about. What I hear from the governor is he's recommending that people wear masks, no matter whether it's government or whatever. And his people down there, when you see him talk, all wear masks. So I'm just wondering why here in Mishawaka we don't comply to his recommendation. I know it's not mandated, but it's a recommendation from him. And I would think that as leaders of this community, that we would put forth our best interest and show people that we respond and we were taking precautions to protect people in Mishawaka.
We're taking all kinds of precautions to protect people who enter into City Hall as well as our employees. We have spent, our resources to make sure that our employees have a safe working environment, things such as installing screens. We have purchased masks for all of our employees, as well as anybody who wants to come into City Hall. Our traffic is typically not heavy in City Hall, but the governor has made the recommendation, and that is up to our citizens to heed that recommendation or to not heed that recommendation. We implore that they use common sense. We've used it at City Hall, and so far it has been effective. And so what we're doing with social distancing, with screening, with masks, some of our employees do wear masks. Again, I think what we have done has been effective, and I don't, at this point, see a reason to go beyond the recommendations of as I said, the CDC, the state, as well as the county.
Just to elaborate on what the plan is for city planner, Mayor Wood directed every department to come up with a plan specific to their department. So, for example, in the planning community development department, anytime somebody comes in for service at the counter, the employee that is servicing them has to put on the mask before going to the counter. We also have masks available at the counter, but not all the people that come in are wearing masks when they come in to the office. We also have the plexiglass that Mayor Wood indicated regarding separating the counter and the public to the employee. The other thing that we take seriously is my understanding, and maybe I'm mistaken because there's a lot of information out there, the mask or social distancing. So we've done great measures to keep 6 feet apart in our offices, including obviously in the council chambers. You can see how we're arranged here, that we're not all wearing masks, because I thought that was the intent, was to appropriately social distance where we did not have to wear it. If that changes, obviously we'll comply, but I thought that from a safety standpoint, I thought that's what we were doing. So just to elaborate.
Thank you, Mr. Prince.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I commend the city administration for what they're doing in abiding and trying to protect all the citizens for what you've done within City Hall. My point was just kind of clarifying from what the governor was saying when he communicates that he's recommended everybody wear a mask. That's all. I'm just trying to get a clarification. But like I say, I commend the city administration for what they have done here at City Hall, trying to protect the people by social distancing, the protection, plexiglass, and that. So it was just a clarification, not a criticism.
Thank you, Mr. Emmons, and Mr. Prince did a very good job of explaining how it impacts interactions between departments, our employees, and our citizens. Even where we do have a lot of citizen interaction, that would happen at our Parks Department. So we have a lot of outdoor facilities and even some events that we have started to hold again, including some small concerts and such. And so at those, we have masks. We have people working the front gates. We have limited the capacity to comply with all of the regulations. And so we've taken all the precautions that, that are required of us and are following those recommendations.
Mr. Mamalenti.
Thank you, Mr. Dixonball. Hello, Mr. Mayor, Matt Mamalenti here. Hope you're doing well. Quick question regarding tests. Are we still administering tests at the clinic?
Yes, we are.
And is our inventory safe and healthy?
Yes, we have good supplies all around, whether it's within our public safety agencies or at our clinic. I have invited Dr. Migliori to come to our staff meetings every week, and she comes and reports on the status, and we have been in good shape really throughout, and even not only on testing, but doing as best we can on getting results as efficiently, as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you. And then regarding the test results, on average, how long is it taking to get the results back?
It depends. There's been a lot more tests around our community lately. There's only a limited amount of people, facilities that can handle those. So we were getting them back in 24 hours or so. Now we're pushed back to a couple or 3 days is where we're at now because of the volume, not necessarily generated from the city of Mishawaka, but countywide and really region-wide.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Mayor Wood? All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Is there other new business to come before the council? Couple of brief items then. Formal notice will, and I believe has gone out with regard to this matter, but the council will be holding an informational session with Republic Services regarding our trash and recycling contract on August 10th at 6 p.m. and remote access will be made available to the public. And then I also wanted to acknowledge, thank Mrs. Hazen for forwarding to us the video that was done and posted on the city's website in honor of Mayor Buter. I thought that was really well done. And Mr. Mayor, if you're still on, I thought your comments were very well taken as part of the video. So thank you for sharing that, Luan. And if there is no other business to come before the council, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.